Imagine you are taking a trip across Europe, from romantic Paris to ancient Rome, and then to modern Berlin. You board a train, buy a coffee, pay for your hotel, all with a single currency resting comfortably in your wallet. Sounds normal, right? But did you know that to achieve that normality, Europe had to undergo the most painful and risky economic surgery in human history? Just a few decades ago, such a journey was a nightmare of money changers, exchange rates fluctuating by the hour, and thick tariff barriers. But the most shocking truth lies not in the convenience. It is the fact that nations who were once sworn enemies in two bloody world wars accepted giving up the most sacred symbol of national sovereignty, the right to print money, to share a common destiny. The euro is not just money. It is a massive political gamble, a vow of peace printed on banknotes, and an unprecedented experiment that economic experts once predicted was impossible. Today, we will unveil the secrets behind the turbulent birth of the euro and the crazy journey to unite an old continent. To understand why Europe craved a single currency so badly, we must travel back to 1945. Europe was a pile of ashes. Cities were flattened, economies were exhausted, and trust between nations was a resounding zero. The biggest problem at the time was not just poverty, but the fear that history would repeat itself. Germany and France would point guns at each other again. Leaders realized that if nations were tightly bound economically, they would be unable to wage war. The beginning of this alliance was extremely humble with the European Coal and Steel Community in 1951, and later the European Economic Community, EEC, in 1957. However, the monetary system at that time was a chaotic mess. When the Bretton Woods Agreement collapsed in the early 1970s, exchange rates between the German mark, French franc, or Italian lira danced wildly. This choked trade. A German business selling machinery to Italy could lose all profit overnight because the lira devalued. To solve this, Europe experimented with the snake-in-the-tunnel mechanism in 1972, an attempt to keep currencies fluctuating within a narrow band. But this snake kept escaping the tunnel due to oil shocks and inflation. Clearly, just pegging rates was not enough. They needed a more radical solution, something permanently irreversible. The idea of a single currency began to kindle, not for purely economic reasons, but as a political tool to lock the destinies of nations together. The historic turning point appeared when the Berlin Wall fell in 1989. A unified Germany became a giant that frightened its neighbors, especially France. The French president at the time, François Mitterrand, set a condition. France would support German reunification, but Germany had to give up the powerful Deutsche Mark to join a common monetary union. German Chancellor Helmut Kohl agreed. That was the price of unity. In 1992, the Maastricht Treaty was signed in the Netherlands, officially giving birth to the European Union, EU, and setting the roadmap for the euro. This was an era of extreme optimism, also known as Europhoria. To join this club, nations had to meet strict criteria regarding public debt and inflation. Under the leadership of Jacques Delors, the project's chief architect, the euro was launched as an electronic currency in 1999. But the truly glorious moment was January 1, 2002. Imagine the largest logistical operation in peacetime history. Billions of new banknotes and coins were secretly transported by armored trucks to banks and shops across the continent. At precisely midnight, ATMs simultaneously switched systems. Europeans woke up holding crisp new banknotes, still smelling of ink, replacing currencies that had existed for centuries. The euro quickly became the world's second-largest reserve currency, challenging the dominance of the US dollar. Interest rates plummeted. Southern European countries like Greece or Spain could suddenly borrow money at interest rates as cheap as Germany. Capital flowed abundantly, creating a fake but brilliant prosperity. Everything seemed perfect.
But the tragedy of the euro lay in its very design, a monetary union without a fiscal union. This means they shared a credit card, but each country decided its own spending. When the 2008 global financial crisis hit, this fatal weakness was exposed. Investors suddenly realized that Greece was not Germany. Greece had borrowed too much during the years of cheap money and was now unable to pay. Typically, a country would print more money or devalue its currency to escape debt. But Greece couldn't do that because they used the euro, something they had no control over. In 2010, the European sovereign debt crisis exploded. Greece, Ireland, Portugal, and Spain stood on the brink of bankruptcy. Markets panic-sold bonds. The scene was chaotic. Violent protests on the streets of Athens, tense all-night meetings in Brussels, and the risk of the euro disintegrating looming right before everyone's eyes. If the euro collapsed, it would drag the entire global economy into an abyss. In the darkest moment, in July 2012, in London, Mario Draghi, president of the European Central Bank, ECB, made a game-changing statement. He said, "Within our mandate, the ECB is ready to do whatever it takes to preserve the euro, and believe me, it will be enough." These 3 words calmed the markets, but the price paid was massive bailout packages accompanied by harsh austerity policies pushing millions into unemployment and poverty, creating deep scars within European society. Today, after more than 2 decades of existence, the legacy of the euro is a mixed picture of light and shadow. On the positive side, you can clearly see the convenience and price transparency. A business in Germany can easily compare prices and import goods from Italy without worrying about exchange rate risks. The euro has truly created a massive single market, boosting intra-bloc trade to record levels. It has also become a symbol of relative stability in the face of geopolitical fluctuations, giving Europe a weightier voice at the international negotiating table. However, negative consequences are also present in the daily lives of Southern Europeans. The European Central Bank's one-size-fits-all policy often serves the interests of large economies like Germany, while creating difficulties for smaller countries. Youth unemployment rates in Spain and Greece remain alarmingly high, a sequela of austerity policies. The core and most painful lesson the euro teaches the world is, you cannot force economic unity upon nations with vastly different cultural and political foundations without a true risk-sharing mechanism. The euro is like a house built from the roof down, magnificent, but always at risk of collapse if the political foundation is not reinforced. Looking back at the stormy journey, the euro is not just a payment instrument, but a test of the will of an entire continent. It is a Frankenstein's monster stitched together from disparate pieces, yet, miraculously, it survives and walks. The euro has proven that peace and prosperity come at a price, and that price is the constant compromise of sovereignty. But the big question remains open. Can the euro survive forever if Europe does not move towards a true federation, where nations share both budgets and debts? Or will it become a victim of the rising wave of populism, of those who want to return to the era of national currencies? The future of the euro is indeed the future of the European project. With the advent of the digital euro, currently under research, will this be the next leap forward or the end of financial privacy? What do you think about this? Would you be willing to give up your nation's currency to join a global common currency? Please share your views in the comments section below. Don't forget to hit like if you found this knowledge useful, and most importantly, smash that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to join me in uncovering shocking economic secrets in the next video. Thank you for watching.